All right, Jeremy here, Jeeps Unlimited 303. I'll let you hold it. I have Pops with me today, get the VIP guest, so he gets the video. Usually I have the video I'm driving. So what we're doing here, 303-666-9020, partsbreakers.com. What we're doing here is doing a test drive. I tell all our customers that we test drive everything, and if we can't test drive it or get at least started, then the mechanical parts get put in his cores, and that's exactly what we're doing here. So motor's a little bit hit and miss as far as running right now, but it's still running, and it should give us, it's actually idling not too bad. It's got a little miss in it, but we'll do compression on it as far as that goes. These gauges, these years, 87 to 90, it's got that old school ribbon computer crap wiring they used to do, like you see on old Apple computers, and they're really finicky. So the fact that these work, I mean, even that clock is working, which is crazy because these clocks almost never work. You got oil pressure kind of bouncing around. That's hard to say if it's accurate or if it's just got a loose connection. I mean, I'd almost say it's the way it's kind of moving around. It's probably got a loose ground somewhere. But we got battery gauge, fuel gauge is doing the same thing. This one is kind of bouncing around. And then temp gauge is working. So this gauge cluster we'll check out. We'll put a check on this to at least say it's working. And then we will further test it just to make sure on these two that they don't stay. And that actually cleaned itself up. It's actually running almost perfect now once she got warmed up. So anyway, we're gonna test the motor, or not the motor, the tranny out, and probably the T-case while we're here. And this has got a Peugeot in it, guys, BA10, so 87 to 89 only. In 1990, they did a AX15. And really, if you have a bad Peugeot, most people don't put another Peugeot into them for a few reasons. One, they're okay out of factory form. They actually lasted quite a bit if people didn't abuse the heck out of them. But otherwise, they don't have the greatest reputation, and especially when they start going bad, they're very, very, very expensive to rebuild, if you can even find somebody to rebuild it. And a lot of times, if you can't find anybody to warranty it, even the good shops out there. So see if we can get her to go down the road a little bit here. So obviously I'm in first right now, or second. We have first two gears, then we'll go around this curve here, and then what we're listening for right now is clearly just grinding. We don't want it to grind. We also don't want it to throw itself out of gear, and we also don't want it to be hard to put in gear. Those could be clutch issues, but so now we got first, second, third, and I probably won't be able to get to the fourth going up this hill, but there's a downhill over here. We should be able to try the next two gears, and hopefully give her a green light on this Peugeot and go from there. It's nice having a good Peugeot because we barely get them in. They really just are far and few between. I'd say one good Peugeot maybe once a year. Almost all of them come into ad. Let's curve before we start trying to do 50 down this thing. She stayed in gear, she didn't grind. It's actually exactly what we want to see. And the clutch, let's test that out because Sherry was asking me about that. Flip around here. Actually, what we'll do real quick, let's go put it in 4-wheel drive over here. So these are shift on the fly once you're on something not dry pavement. We're on gravel right now, so okay. Let's see if we can get her to, yeah, you can kind of tell she's that, and then low range, of course, you got to come to a stop all the way back here. And there's our low range there. So we got a good T-case. This is going to be a 21 spline T-case, even though it is a 6-cylinder. They didn't do the 23 until they went to the AX15. So we'll go back up to... And actually this clutch feels pretty good. I think we're going to have a good clutch in her too. We don't usually sell clutches, so it's not the reason I'm testing that. It's more or less just a, you know, in this particular case, we're going to be using this motor of compression. We still, one more check we have to do on this engine is compression. Even though she's running now, you know, she got a little miss, so that could be ignition. But we always want to verify the running shape with a compression. If compression comes back good, she'll get marked good, put on the shelf. If compression comes back bad, or one of the 6 cylinders, or a couple of them come back lower, we usually do like a plus or minus 10. If one of them comes back low, or a few of them, this is where having Jerry, we call him our Rain Man, is so nice, because he will then take the engine and do a leak down, and essentially see if we're losing our compression out. The rings, which would be bad, that motor at that point would be no good. We'd have to, at that point would be sawing it as a core, or even parting it out, or losing it out our exhaust or intake valves. And in that case, a lot of times we can bring those motors back to life with just a light head job. Sometimes a full head job, but a lot of times it's just they've sat for a long time and they have some carbon buildup. So, but the point is that after he's done with it, we'll get compression back up to whatever's consistent on all the other cylinders. So if we're at 120, we'd like to get those other whatever 1 or 2 or however many cylinders down back up to usually 110 and up. But we like to see that, you know, 115 if it's at a 120 average, or 125, you know, be a little higher. Oftentimes those ones that he works on get a little higher. We had one the other day, it was down to, he did 150 almost on every cylinder, which is really high compression, especially at our elevation. One cylinder was down to like 100, which is way, way low. And one cylinder was like 110, which is still, you know, beyond our plus or minus. Did a leak down on that particular one, and let's see if we can do this. Always hate when I do this, but that one he pulled, he did leak down, seen it was coming out, I think exhaust or intake on that one, can't remember, but by the time he was done, and yeah, about 6 hours labor, you know, of our own time to make sure these things are going to be, you know, good motors and last a long time, or hopefully last a long time. Obviously that's going to depend on maintenance after the fact, but anyway, he had those other 2 cylinders at 145 by the time he was done, and we threw that in a Jeep, and that thing's screaming. I mean, it's still sitting here on the property, so pretty cool what he can do with those. We used to just have to shell almost all the motors. We just never had a guy that knew engines like he does, and the coolest thing is he loves it. You know, I hesitate going out to him going, I got another one for you, and you can just tell he's like a kid in a candy store when it comes to messing with motors. He just absolutely, it's an art form for him. So, all right, well, you guys seen it yourself. We'll mark all this stuff mechanical wise good, and again, we'll double check on this engine. This engine's kind of spoken for possibly at the moment, as long as compression comes back good, or we can at least save the top end. She's a little fuely. She definitely has a cat or something, either plugged or getting there, but we're still idling. Even with maybe a slight hiccup there, we're still idling almost perfect. Here's your temp for your engine, under that 200 mark, and actually with that drive, if it was going to overheat, it would have done it there. And then oil pressure bouncing around 40, 50, you know, it's probably 40 steady. We get a good solid gauge on it. Here's your battery. That doesn't really matter, but it's nice to see it. And there's that little ticking yellow arm there, which is hard to see because this thing's got some, what is this thing anyway? I don't even know what this thing is. Is that what it is? Yeah. Anyway, this will come off. It's probably, yeah, they drilled it into this thing, but it doesn't affect the gauges at all. And we got our fuel gauge working. And then this one more time, this does have an AC, and this is functioning. And it's got all the brackets under the hood for V-belt 4.2. So for a CJ guy or a YJ guy that's running V-belt 4.2, this is going to be your system. We obviously are testing it now. Okay. And then as far as the cold goes, this is probably not converted yet. I'll have to get with Jerry on that. The vents are kind of crummy, unfortunately. You can replace these pop out, so they're pretty easy. And if we get when we sell these kits, just like engine stuff, we'll go through and replace, you know, if we have a good set of them. We don't guarantee those, but we try to, you know, on one of our good sets, or we'll tell you before you buy it, like, hey, you know, these can be popped in and out. You can get them, but we don't have a clean set at the moment, so we'll knock them down a little bit. All right, let's get out of here before we die of toxic fumes. Thanks, Pops. Love you. 303-666-9020, partsbreakers.com, and here's our yard. Thanks, guys.